right, we are live, and I am going to go ahead and drop this in reds just in case anyone wants to hop on.
Nice.
All right, we are live, and I'm going to go ahead and drop this in reds just in case anyone wants to hop on. All right, we are live. Drop this in reds. Okay. All right. So, awesome way to start the preseason, I would say, for sure. That was definitely a lot of fun. Okay. All right. So, awesome way to start the preseason, I would say, for sure. That was definitely a lot of fun.
Definitely didn't have the energy of a regular preseason game. Like the Garden was jumping.
Yeah, Garden was definitely popping tonight for sure, which was great. Crowd clearly was like everyone had clearly missed being in the Garden. Everybody was, crowd was super loud. Everyone was edge of their seat. All of that. It was a fun game too. It was for an opener. It was a lot of fun, a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to shoot 35% every night.
No.
So it did a lot closer than it probably should have been. But man, what a thriller. And just I think the fans really got into the fact that they just had a team that was fun to root for again. We haven't had that in a while. Last year's team wasn't very likable. So
right.
It's like even Herman Gomez, when he started, just immediately he's making hustle plays. It's like, oh, I remember what this was like.
Right. Everyone was making a lot of hustle plays. You can tell and I think it's still going to be the team, but I think certainly the energy of the crowd and the fact that you're open and back in the Garden, energy, really at both ends, but certainly especially on the defensive end was really ratcheted up. I think the defense is a little bit ahead of the offense right now, but it was just a great vibe. I would have loved to have been in the building, honestly, but it was just a really great vibe in there. It seemed like.
No, the energy was contagious because you could tell like the players were feeding off it. When everybody came in, they kind of had their moment. Even Canner, as awful as he was after his first 2 minutes, once he entered, he had a nice ovation from the crowd. He caught a pass and then he made a layup. And then the rest of the game, I couldn't believe it. Like, he used to have great hands. What happened? He had his hands on every board and ended up with none of them.
Yeah. I'm hoping that's just, like with so many people, some preseason rust. I know I saw JT shot a couple air balls and stuff like that. So I'm hoping with some of these guys, it's rust. Jay Rich did not have a great offensive game. He was really bad. Like on the defensive end, he was okay. Had a couple of nice blocks, all of that. But I thought he looked uncomfortable out there. Like he's still definitely trying to figure out where he fits in, which is understandable.
I mean, the narrative I want is for Neesmith to take those minutes anyway. So Richardson isn't the worst thing in the world, but good God, was he awful tonight. I mean, 1 for 8 shooting, you can kind of forgive that. Everybody has off shooting nights, but he was just so out of place. He didn't really have a role. He wasn't a secondary ball handler. He wasn't,
he didn't create much either.
No, he was a total zero out there. Though somehow he had the highest plus minus on the team, but that just shows you how flawed plus minus is. He was in the game made that crazy run, the 11-0 run. So
Yeah, he was in there. And I mean, and as for Neesmith, who you were talking about, comes in at the end, hits a couple threes, makes a hustle play, gets that layup. Yeah, I mean, still throwing his body around with reckless abandon here. But it was good. It was, he looked confident. He stepped in. Both him and Pritchard just stepped in the shots. Really, Langford too.
yeah,
All three of them. Obviously Langford hit the game winner, but I mean, all of them looked confident, stepping in the shots.
Grant did.
Grant, I was just about to say, you could add Grant to that list. Like, how good does it feel to have our young players look like, all right, maybe we're going to play some this year, like that feels like really good. It elongates this team and its depth so much more. And like that depth was noticeable, obviously, with Schroeder coming off the bench. It was just noticeable instantly how night and day this team looks from last year.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed that we didn't get any really Horford minutes with that end of game lineup because obviously they pulled Canner and put in Grant because they just kept attacking him and the switches. Cole Anthony had a field day when Cantor was in, but I would have loved to have seen Al with that Pritchard, Richardson, Neesmith lineup. Oh my God, that would have been a lot of fun.
Right. And so, and it's entirely possible. I mean, we've got 4 preseason games. So my thought is, that maybe our approach to preseason this year may be somewhat similar to general approaches with the NFL preseason, in the sense that first game is usually a lot of feeling out, uncomfortable, kicking rust off, figuring out, all right, what sorts of things do we need to what holes do we have? What things do we need to clean up? What issues? And I suspect the last game guys may play a quarter and then get out. And hopefully they clean stuff up a bit more in the second game. And by third game, looks like maybe that's a dress rehearsal. And that tends to be what it is for that. I know Ime said not to read a ton into the starting lineup for today's game. And so our starters were they Rob and Wancho, and accompanying the Jason Smart. Is that right?
That is correct. And that's what I think he was referring to. I think he was referring to Hermie when he said don't take too much into the starting lineup. I really do think that's still up in the air, whether it will be him, Grant, whoever. The one thing I did think that was kind of solid, though, is keeping Horford as the sixth man. I think magic there, because him and Schroeder, they're just instant chemistry. They're phenomenal together.
They were. They looked good on the pick and roll, and all those things that Horford tends to do well, to magnify, elite ball handling, quick guards. All of that was on display when he played. So that was really good to see.
And obviously he didn't have a good shooting night, but you saw the good and the bad with Schroeder. I mean, he's a little reckless sometimes with the ball, but when he's zoned in, like that pass he had to Jalen in the first half, good Lord, how did he see him there?
Yeah, on the weak side, coming from the weak side.
Yep.
Yeah, that was nice. That was definitely nice to see that, and just having that he's a gunslinger for sure. And sometimes that's good and bad. How that works. Sometimes that's good and bad to have a gunslinger in the lineup.
How'd you feel about Smart? I thought he had some ups and downs that you could tell there was an adjustment period.
Yeah. And so I think for him, it felt like in trying to show everyone or certainly prove to my coach, hey, you can trust me with the ball, and I'm going to look to set up my guys and be that guy that people want me to be. At times, maybe he was a little bit of overpassing, and he made mention of that in his press conference, that guys were maybe overpassing a little bit, and that's what led to a lot of the sloppy turnovers that we saw in the first half. There were like 10 turnovers in the first half.
We
Um,
cleaned it up in the second half though, because we only ended up with what I wanted to say like 15 for the game, 15 or
yeah,
16 for the game. That's not that. I mean, it's not great. You want to probably be what 12, 13 maybe is a good average. But considering you have double digits in the first half, it's
right.
definitely tightening up.
Right. Yeah. And so I that's the vibe I got from Marcus, was that he was maybe trying a little bit too hard. He did make that nice extra pass to JT for the three when he could have taken the shot. And so I think, that went so well. I think he just fed off at like, yeah, here we go. This works. And I thought a couple times like, um, either you could shoot that or drive that there. You don't have to make the long kick out pass back up to the top of the key. But that's not something I expect to linger on. I just think, um, that was just something that happened today, and maybe he was just trying a little hard. But hey, he'll settle in, and I still think it's a lot of this is still learning where everybody fits. Obviously, you know Al, you know these other guys, but there's still like a little bit of coalescing with this team. There's got a lot of guys that know each other. So
Yes.
the way I put it, there's a lot of things they need to clean up, but I don't think there's anything that they can't or won't clean up,
Yeah.
as far as I saw.
One flaw that used to always happen, and it goes back even a couple years now, is when somebody was hot, everybody else would want to get involved too instead of feeding the hot hand. And we did the
Yeah.
opposite of that tonight with Jalen. I was like, oh, look at this. They're learning. Hey, if somebody's hot, let's give them a couple more looks. Let's keep them
Yep.
going. They just fed Jalen. Boom, boom, boom. It was so nice to see.
It really was. It really was. And yeah, he got off to, and I mean, and that was the way he started off last season,
Yep.
typical hot starts coming out of games, flying. It's usually JT who settles in by the third quarter and just picks it up and ratchets it up by the third and then fourth quarter. But we saw, typical Jalen getting hot to start the game. Um, and so we saw evidence like Jalen's ball handling ability was just it has, as I mentioned in the last pod, that it is so cleaned up. Now there were still times that I felt like he may have dribbled a little bit too long. I know the 0.5 thing Ime talks about and wanting guys to make decisions faster. That still needs to be cleaned up a little bit. That's one of the things that um, we want to see things get better at. Certainly as we get into the season, as the season goes on. But I'm not expecting it to be perfect right out the gate, but something
Yeah,
to keep an eye on.
he had a play in the second half. It was like a Kyrie kind of dribble move where he just kind of put it out there and took it back, like almost a little mini sham god. I was like, oh, look at Jalen. Like you could tell, like, I mean, that was such an emphasis for him to make his, to work on his ball handling. And it is showing. And it's just a miracle in itself that he's even out there. He was supposed to be out in November, and that wrist is much.
Yeah,
So
yeah. He was talking about his wrist in the post game, saying it was about, what did he say, 85, 80,
he
85%?
grabbed it a couple times during the game. So you kind
Yeah,
of, but I mean, the way he played, if that's him at 85, like I said, that handle, he had the ball on a string.
yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. He looked really good. Hey, Jared. Yeah, it's really nice to see we got a bench this year. Um, eh, and I thought our bench looked um, it looked
He,
dynamic. We look flexible. We look like we can go in a billion different directions. You know, we can go big, we can go small.
think about the guys who didn't play. Any of those guys would have played last year in a game like this.
Yeah.
Like the Brunos, even like the shooters, Parker, all those guys would have got minutes last year, just somewhere.
Right. And so my thought is like the guys like the Diaconos, the Matthews, the Brunos, of course, you know, maybe those guys will get some run in the next game. Forget when the next game is, but in the next game, we'll maybe see some of those guys show up for a little bit.
It's got to be coming up soon. Is it Thursday, the next game? Yeah,
Yeah, that
or
makes
that
sense.
looks like Saturday versus Toronto.
Saturday versus Toronto. Oh, gotta wait that long for the next one.
I know. I thought there was something midweek, but I guess there's only 4 games because after that it's Wednesday the 13th at Orlando and then Friday the 15th at Miami.
Right. Do you like the shortened schedule like this?
For preseason?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I need the real thing. Like this is just a fix that's wonderful because the game was good, but usually preseason basketball is not this. It's awful. So yeah, like we got lucky that if even our other 3 games are just like, you know, dog crap, at least we got a really cool, exciting opener. And plus the first game, you know, Ime as a head coach. There was a lot of cool, like special stuff about tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah. So not that this is a podcast for them, but how do you feel about how the Magic played?
They play hard, man. I don't know if it was like the summer league or what, but they had a lot of chemistry. Their young guys were rolling, and Cole Anthony, like when he gets hot, it's a problem.
He really showed me something because I thought at times he looked, really outmatched and, over his head at times last year. But I mean, we'll see obviously what this year provides, but he looked really confident, really good. He was a guy I really liked in the draft. He was picked, and I guess that was last year. We ended up with obviously Neesmith, and I'm certainly happy with that. But there was part of me at time that wanted to take Anthony because I was thinking we were not going to end up with a point guard, and I wasn't sure if Marcus was going to be back either. So I was thinking, maybe Anthony becomes, the next guy. He looked really, he was taking some deep shots. He was looking confident. He was taking advantage of the mismatches, the Cantor mismatch. He was smart in setting those up.
Yep.
He recognized that and he kept calling for it. Speaking of which, another guy, everyone was saying on Twitter, that's the best I've seen Mo Bamba play in the league.
It was absolutely shocking.
He looked like I saw him pulling from mid-range. I was like, oh, this is one of those kind of heaters today. Like you're just pulling up from 18 like it wasn't no thing. I was like, oh, so we're on that kind of heater today.
And he was also affecting the game on the defensive end too. I mean,
he
was 4 blocks. I mean, the dream with Mo Bamba was always Rudy Gobert that could shoot threes. He's never going to become that. But man, we saw a baby version of that. We saw a flash of that in just 20 minutes. His double-double, 13 and 10, some solid shooting, bang down a 3, plus 11 for the game, which, like I said, plus minus is a flawed stat, but sometimes there is some, truth to that.
Right. Yeah, I thought he looked good. I thought in some limited minutes, I thought Hampton looked explosive.
Yeah, he had that one dunk that kind of
Neesmith missed the box out, and he came crashing. Yep. He came weak side crashing.
And this is another thing. You can't just judge it by a box score, because by the box score, you would have thought Suggs was awful. I was really impressed with how he played, especially defensively.
Really was. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I was really impressed by Jalen Suggs. Like that kid really does. That kid really has heart. That kid has real heart.
Yeah, I almost went like, you know what? I got to look up rookie of the year odds before it's too late to put in a bet because he'd be a great sleeper because there's no way he's, one of the favorites. And I'm like, he's going to get the opportunity in Orlando. He's going to get the shots. And I know every night he's not going to shoot 3 for 11. And God, he is just so tough.
Yeah, he is. He is feisty on the defensive end. I saw him block that, come back for that Tatum block.
Got
He
him twice.
blocked Canner. Yeah, blocked him twice. Canner once as well. Um, they got, some point they're going to have to make a trade for a scoring wing somewhere and figure out which one of those guys between those two and Fultz that they're going to end up having to move somewhere at some point.
No, somebody's going to get a really good guard from Orlando because whichever one they decide to move on from is pretty decent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also the Bamba thing kind of, I don't, is Jonathan Isaac out for the whole season? I assume so, right?
That actually, I was about to ask you that. I'm not sure if he is or not.
I know it was a pretty serious injury. So even if he was coming back, it wasn't until, well into 2022.
Right.
But the way Bamba looks, man, that really kind of, because he's in a contract year.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. I remember there was a time when he was looked at as baby Horford. People were calling him that he might be, baby Horford, just steady guy. And that didn't obviously work out in Chicago. We'll see what happens here with him. He put together a couple of nice games at the end of last year, so we'll see what he continues. Orlando's still is still going to be a team that's going to be doing a lot of figuring out from the bottom of the Eastern Conference. But they got some clay in there. They got some clay to work with.
I just don't understand the plan because your best players all play the same position. You have like 3 really good, like small ball bigs or fours, depending on how you want to categorize them. And then you have like 3 guards that all are like maybe a starting caliber guard. I really don't know how they're going to consolidate that talent to something that fits more like a basketball team because besides that, it's rough. Like I'm not impressed.
I'd feel better about them if I knew more about how Isaac was going to come back. Like that he's lost so much time due to injury is really what the killer is. Because, the Wagners are kind of whatever.
Yeah. I'm a Michigan college and I'm not impressed.
Yeah. And so, with either of them. And so, but, they're both there. And, we don't know how WCJ is. Whatever good stats he may put up, he may give it back on bad defense. But again, really, like Isaac was supposed to be a great two-way forward, like really good defender with crazy length, could shoot, could do these things, lots of things. And just having him lose all this time, all this development time, that's what really hurts. Because you had him, you had Bamba, and 1 or 2 of those guards, and you're like, all right, maybe we got something to work with. But yeah, it's hard to figure out what direction you go in because there's still so many guys on that team. You don't know where you're at with, but decisions have to be made on them soon. Which is the worst part.
No, it's we've been in that situation. Like we went through Rob Williams where you kind of don't know what you have. And then you see flashes and then they get hurt again. Like poor Rob tonight. Everything he threw down just came back out of the rim. It was just one of those bad, like those were all great shots. Good, especially the ones he's trying to throw it down on somebody's face, but they hit the back, it came out off the back of the rim, bounce out.
Yeah, it certainly did. So I don't know. We'll see how how that goes. We didn't quite see the double big lineup. I wonder if we do see that at some point before the end of preseason as a starting group to see the Horford Rob Williams tandem to see if that is how they go with this at all or not.
I'd be surprised because it didn't seem like Tatum was able to get going until he moved up the spot when they took out Herman Gomez. But I don't know. I'm always going to be arguing that Tatum gets better matchups at the 4 than the 3. It just seems like he has more space to work. I don't know, for whatever reason, somebody's slower footed that he can go by. I mean, you saw it when he dunked on it was Wendell Carter, I believe, right? That he
Yeah.
dunked bad.
Yeah. Now we also saw him, go to work a couple times in the post. I know that's something that Ime has talked a bit about. Big boy basketball there for Tatum is something that he's mentioned on a couple of occasions. I remember the video with him during the Olympics, working with Tatum, and he's like,
Yeah.
that's not, and Tatum started to fade away, and he's like, that's not bully ball. Do it again. I want bully ball. And so we'll see certainly a bit of that this year, I expect. But yeah, we'll have to see how that works, where, if they try that, or if they think that they can get a mismatch at the 2 and 3 and not lose that space from there. Is running the if you want to run the offense through Horford and do it at the 5, then maybe that does mean that Rob takes a seat if that happens. Rob has a lot of activity to start out the game, and he usually plays well there. But what do you think is a better fit? If you take the double big idea out of the consideration for a second, if you have to go with one to fit that group,
I think it has to be Rob because you just know he's going to bring so much energy to start. And I don't know why. It doesn't matter who's the coach. It's been like this for 10 years. We get off to slow starts and we kind of have like a lackadaisical energy at the beginning of games. Well, you don't when Rob's out there because, oh my God, he's 1,000 miles per hour, almost to the point where he burns himself out. And then to the other side of it, I love the stability of Horford off the bench. He anchors that bench unit. And plus, if Schroeder's going to be coming off the bench, it just makes even more sense. But it just seems like that's the direction they're going to go.
We shall definitely see how that goes moving forward. And I loved, obviously, the minutes of Nesmith and Langford today.
Yeah.
That still, to me, is going to be an interesting situation for Ime to try and tease out and make sense of as far as where they fit. But both guys shot it confidently today. I love that. And just in general, I didn't see, and maybe just because it was Orlando and they don't have a ton of offensive weapons, but even when we went to the bench, like other than with the obvious situation with Cantor trying to defend high screen roll, like in general, like I didn't see a ton of defensive drop off from a lot of places.
You could argue the defense got better with that bench unit, depending on which bench unit it was. But like Horford, Schroeder, Richardson trio that was kind of anchoring a bench unit, the defense was a lot better than what the starters were bringing. I liked Herman Gomez. I liked his hustle, but he kind of, I don't know if it was just he didn't know where to be. He got caught being in the wrong position a couple times, got scored on. Rob overplayed, tried to help too much, got beat backdoor. Jalen, Tatum, they're awesome. You don't have to worry about them. Smart was great pressuring the ball. But honestly, the bench played better defense than the starters overall.
Oh,
Especially,
how'd you like Schroeder pressing ball handlers,
yes,
you know,
100%.
by himself from like, 80 feet. You got that one steal that Hernan Gomez fumbled out of bounds off that pass. But I mean, that's something he's going to be able to do, a bit of just picking his spots, being able to turn ball handlers and take a few extra seconds of time off the shot clock.
And obviously, we're not going to play 13 guys in a real game unless it's like garbage time and it's a blowout one way or the other. So you figure like those Canner minutes just get, more, maybe go to Al, a couple of those go more to Al, a couple more go to Grant. And, you divide it up like that. Man, it's going to be a really solid defensive unit. It's definitely going to be defense that is what shines with this team. And then it's just Tatum and Brown have to take us home by scoring. I mean, that's pretty much.
Absolutely. Speaking of Grant, and it's just one of my final things I have left. Like, I know, obviously, we know Grant said and they mentioned this during the podcast, he lost 15 pounds. He said he's trying to lose, what do you say, maybe another 8. And he said he's lighter, he's faster, he can actually dunk again. And it's true. Like he, part of his issue last year, he'd get sent out on the perimeter, and he was just too slow to stay with guys on closeouts and whatnot, because he was tasked as a 5. But he does look slimmer, maybe a little bit faster. We'll see if he's faster.
No, he is. He pushed that fast break. He started that fast break. I know Ime has a point of emphasis of the bigs having to push the offense. Like Horford brought it up once or twice. Grant did, where we got a nice little like 3-on-2. But he wouldn't have been able to make that play last year. He was too slow.
Yeah. Yeah. So if he gets down a little bit more, I know he's like, I can actually dunk now a little bit again. And so, yeah, obviously the kid's smart.
Yep.
And he knows how to play the game. It was just a lot of cases, his athletic limitations last year were really getting in the way and hurting him. So hopefully this year, with him losing weight, we get to see a little bit more of that. But again, like I say, just going back to one of the earlier thoughts, it's so good to see. And I mean, it's weird not including Jalen and Jason as young guys anymore as part of this group we're talking about. We're talking about really just the draft picks from the last couple of years, and how all of a sudden, like, guys are really contributing. And these are all guys that were Danny's guys that he plucked. Like, his fingerprints are still all over this roster. As much work as Brad did to clean things up, there's still a lot of Danny on this roster. A lot of guys that we weren't sure if they were going to do stuff. Maybe, just maybe, we're going to start to see pay a few dividends.
Yeah, I mean, it takes time. That's the other thing with these draft picks, man. Like, you can't judge them in the moment. It takes 2 to 3 years we've seen so many late bloomers, the Kyle Lowrys that need their second or third team before they really, make that leap.
Absolutely. Progress is not linear in this league at all.
Especially when you're under 24, 23 years old. I mean, it's insane. There's guys drafted this year that these guys are younger than, you know what I mean? Like, it's insane. Like, how much, I don't know, we want that instant gratification. And it's kind of sad because it really can kind of ruin some really good players, because they'll get in their head and they'll never be able to get out of it.
Right. Well, all right. So once again, tonight's game, like, really just a fantastic game all the way around. Great crowd at the Garden, which you love to see, which you love to hear, with Celtics basketball starting back up. But we get the win on a last second shot by Romeo. Great to see. 98-97. And we'll have the next game, we say Thursday?
Saturday.
Saturday. Oh,
Yeah.
I keep maybe
Long.
trying. I keep maybe trying to get you to say Thursday, and so maybe I can convince myself
It's
that we
my
won't
fault.
have a whole week to wait.
2 games, and I don't know why. I thought it was Thursday, but yeah, it's Saturday, unfortunately.
So, but with that, any remaining words? Anything else you want to get at before we get out of here?
Well, since he hit the game winner, I want to give Romeo some love and respect. And then he made me laugh in the press conference. He said he switched his number from 45 to 9.
I saw that.
Because the 45 made him look too chunky. And you know what? He did look slimmer out there tonight. So I think
he did, man. Slim Reaper right now, right?
Yeah. So Romeo would be my last little shout out because he earned it.
Absolutely, he did. He did. And I'll give my number one star, if you will, to Aaron for hitting a couple shots and helping to get this game back close again. So good stuff all around. And so with that, I think we're going to go ahead and sign off out of here. But once again, if you're watching this video, then, what are you waiting for? Join the community on Facebook. Come be a part of this action. Help, maybe, come on and share your thoughts. This is a community, an interactive community. This space is for you guys. It's not for us. It is for you, the fans. It is not for the journalists and all of that. I mean, they're welcome to love this as well. Don't get me wrong, but this is for the people who don't get paid the big bucks, that sit up in the rafters and cheer for the team, but still have opinions, still have takes, still die hard for this team, still bleed green, all of that. This is your space. So come get it. Come get it. Real talk. And don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on Spotify and iTunes. All right. Billy, any final words?
No, that was a great win, man. Just, one at a time. Let's go. What is it? What would it be? 86-0?
86-0, right? 86-0 is still on the table. All right. Heard it here first. All right. So in that case, this is Red's Disciples signing off.